to GearHeads. We're gonna go ahead and start throwing this engine back into this bug, and if we're lucky, maybe it'll be running tonight. That's my goal. But anyways, I think last time when we took it out, we had trouble getting the engine out when it was on the jack, and we had to, what do we have to do? We have to jack the car up higher?
We're gonna have to put the jack in first. Well, slide the
engine in first, then get it on the jack, because it wouldn't fit under. And we could probably try and lift the car higher, but
we're gonna do it the hard way.
I think we maxed out the jack with the height the car is at now.
Probably.
So we'll just do it the hard way because it'll be faster, but we'll just slide the engine under, then get it up onto the jack. And then one person can lift it and get it straight in from the top and the back here. The other person can be on the bottom, making sure it stays on the jack and doesn't fall.
That'll be you.
Themselves. Yeah, great. It's always me on the bottom.
Yeah. Hey.
Hey. No.
Giggity.
All right, got my handy dandy flashlight, and I'm gonna go down there.
It's your handy dandy.
Handy dandy. See, it's so bright.
I hate that.
These things are awesome. If you guys want to get these, I'll put a link in the description.
Yep. You get over the top and rock it forward.
That's what I'm gonna try and do. But I need to get it. Alright. Go ahead and actually just start jacking it up right here a little bit.
Yeah.
And we'll make sure it stays balanced right now. And then when we get closer, I can go underneath. Lower. Lower. Stop. Hair lower. A little lower. Stop. Right there, I think. I'm looking at the mating surfaces. The engine needs to tilt forward a little bit still, but I think I can push it by hand if I'm lucky. All right, a little more weight off. Got it? Who needs a clutch alignment tool? There we go. They're mated up. All right. Studs are all the way through.
All of them?
The bottom two are studs, so
nice.
Yes, these two. And then the top two are bolts, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, the top right one up here and the other one we got from the other side, so.
Cool.
Okay, so the engine is in, the studs and the bolts are all tightened down and we're good to go there. If you are missing something, just go ahead and refer back to our earlier video, but if you're actually following this and you're installing an engine in a bug, then you should know where they go at this point because you can kind of see it while you're lining the engine up. Anyways, the one thing we forgot when we took it out was disconnecting these heater hoses that go up here, and they literally just slide on there. I don't know if you're supposed to install a clamp or not, but there was no clamps on here before, so they were just slid on, so I'm putting it back the way we found it. And then down here, where we're supposed to hook up the heater line, or not the, well, the heater control line, this rubber piece, I think, slides back up here. And it's supposed to just sit over that, but that rubber's worn out. Anyways, you can see you've got this piece right here that goes, and then this guy on the actual lever that opens and closes that valve to let hot air up through the vents to warm your car up, or warm you up in the car. Now, we are missing these parts, and they were not on here when we took this apart, but basically this thing's supposed to just slide up facing this way, and you slide the you slide the line through the hole, right through the middle, but you do that with a barrel nut installed here. Now I can't show you the barrel nut because like I said, we don't have them. So we found out we're missing them. So right now we're just gonna have to leave this disconnected, and because we don't have any barrel nuts here. But if you just go ahead and Google that or look it up, there's a lot of good videos out there on YouTube that'll show you how to hook these up. But we don't have the parts, so we're not going to do it. So let's get back up to the top and start hooking things up and get this motor to actually run. Okay, so first thing we're going to do real fast, because it's already here, easy to get to and ready, is hook up the throttle cable. And I had just mentioned, talking about the heater cables down there, a barrel nut. And this is a perfect example of a barrel nut. It's the same exact part, basically, that's holding the throttle cable into the throttle body and opening and closing it when you put your foot on the gas, and it pulls on that cable. So come over here and I'll show you. So here is a barrel nut, and this is gonna work the same way on the heater cables down there if you're curious about those, but this is how it's gonna work for the throttle cable. The throttle cable slides right on through here like this, and then you tighten that bolt down right there and it squeezes it, holds it in place. It looks like there's a spot on this cable right there where it had been squeezed down to before. You can see that dimple in it because it had been holding it there. So what I'm gonna do is take this off, and you have to slide this barrel nut through the opening in the throttle cable here, or not throttle cable, into the throttle arm. Sorry, it's so cold, guys, again tonight, and I'm like just fighting being able to talk and pay attention because I'm freezing. But anyways, okay, so that's pulled through. I'm gonna push it back, and for the moment I'm just gonna put it where it was. So I'm just gonna get finger tight. Okay. All right, so they're hooked up. Now I'm gonna go ahead and just grab a 10 mil wrench and tighten that down. All right, my bad, that's not a 10 mil. This is an 8 millimeter. And oh, look at that, see? Pulling the whole lever with it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and hold the lever. And that's good, the line's moving with it. There we go. One more and it should be plenty tight enough. There we go. So now, when you put your foot on the gas, it's gonna pull on this cable, it's gonna open the throttle. There we go. All right, so the throttle cable was running over the top of the transmission, and we just kind of tucked it back out of the way, but now that the engine's in, I'm just gonna run it back over here underneath the fresh air exchange slot here. And then this one, oh, I need a hose clamp. Where'd the hose clamp go?
It's on the ground.
That is a tiny hose clamp. So let me slide that over. All right, at least it's on the line. And then this line goes down onto the mechanical fuel pump, and it goes to the one facing more towards the back. All right, next we'll go ahead and install this one here. It's got a fuel filter installed right in the middle of it, so just that one goes there, and then this one goes up to the back side of the carb. Come on, baby. There we go. And just tighten those clamps down a bit. All right, throttle cable's hooked up, fuel line's hooked up. We've got these two air hoses here coming that go through the firewall to the wheel well on here, and at least from looking it up online, because I think these were actually disconnected when we got them, and we pulled one off because Matt had slipped it on. But from what it looks like, I believe the one towards the back goes onto the fan shroud here, and the one towards the front is going to go into the intake. Now I did crawl underneath the wheel well and look. The one towards the back and this one both run into the wheel well, and there's some sort of reservoir box with it looks like a vacuum line running up to the front of the car. I don't know if that's what takes vacuum up there that runs, for example, the windshield wiper controls and some of the other stuff. I'm not sure, but that's at least what I think is right for now. If for some reason we get this hooked up and we don't have things working up there, then at least I can assume maybe just swap these over. But for now, I think that's correct. And then next we're gonna do some wiring, hook some things up. I know over here on this side we had this ground wire that was actually just sitting there, floating free, sitting on the back of the engine. I don't know exactly what it went to. For the moment, I'm going to at least just bring it up over here and let it sit for a little bit. We'll see if we're gonna end up needing it or not. I don't know if this is something somebody ran back for their aftermarket stereo or something else, but we can figure that out when we need to. And then we've got this line over here that runs across the top of the motor to the back, and it goes through here. These two here are gonna run the battery positive, which is this stud sticking off of the generator slash alternator. Here we go. And I think that's an 8 millimeter on this one. Can you get me an 8 millimeter, Matt? All right, that's tight. And then this green one, I believe, is just a ground, like, you know, green earth ground. You know, I don't know. This is old school. Usually you'd use a black wire for ground, but maybe they did it differently on these old Volkswagens. All right, so I believe that's hooked up how it needs to be. And then over here is a little bit confusing because somebody has been here before. And this is one of the frustrating things about working on an old car is, you know, they're changing wire colors. I mean, if you're gonna modify it, why not at least stick with the same wire color? Because we've got this green wire here turning into a red wire, And then we've got here a black wire turning into also a red and black, or a red wire with a stripe in it, so red and black, whatever. And I don't remember from when we pulled it apart which one went to what. I'm assuming though, if this one's a green, and then also I remember on the distributor side of things, I believe this was also, this green one here was also a ground. I'm assuming this also stays with the philosophy of green being a ground, just like it is to the generator and just like it is on the ignition coil. But I might want to double check that with a multimeter before I actually hook it up, because I don't want to fry anything. Let me check some of these and see if and where I have battery voltage or don't. So let me set that somewhere where it won't fall, hopefully. And this should be ground, and this should be battery positive. All right, I have 12.3 volts here.
Nice.
Okay, how about here? Whoop. To this red, one that came from green. Nothing. What do I hear? That might be ignition though, so it might only come on with a key. Let me switch this, look for resistance, and then see if I have ground here as well. Check this for ground. Because this one's originally green and the other one's black. I don't know which one would or wouldn't be ground. Okay. So there's some resistance. Yeah, so there's some resistance here. There's a lot of it. It's 37 ohms, but that actually is resistance. So that's a ground, I believe. I know this is a ground. I know that's a ground. This, I believe, is ignition power. Let me hook these two grounds up, Matt, and then you want to try and just turn the key and see if I get power there?
Sure.
All right, hold on. All right, and on this ignition coil, the top side is ground, I believe. So, hold on, don't turn the ignition on yet. All right, there's that one. And then this other green one here, I'll run up over here. Whoever did this and modified it and changed it to a red wire, that is a terrible idea. I don't know who decided that was the right thing to do. Talk about just bad practices. All right, that one's on. All right, go ahead and turn the key on, Matt.
Okay.
Let me check for voltage. Keys on?
Yep.
Hey, I'm getting 8 volts here.
Oh, nice.
Turn the key off. I want to see if that comes on and off with the ignition. Yeah, it went off. Turn it on again. Oh, whoa, whoa there. That's not what I meant, but it's good to know that works.
It does.
All right, that's about 10 volts. So, and that's coming through the ignition. And then I've got, at the generator here, I've got also 10 volts. And so what that's probably telling us is the battery needs to be charged still. But we at least have voltage there in both of those spots. So that's good. And then that means this guy is gonna go down here to the positive side. Shut the ignition off, just so I don't accidentally short this out. But this should go down to the positive side of this ignition coil. That's cool. And then the last thing here, I believe, was this guy right here, which we had originally hooked up, and it was on the positive side of the ignition coil, and that was running over to this plug right here on the side of the carburetor, and this other one up here, which I believe is an idle air control valve of some sort. It's, I mean, I guess on a carbureted motor, that'd be known as an electric choke. I don't know why I'm overcomplicating it by trying to create new names. Or let's say this, apply new names to old technology that had different names already given to them. Yeah, I'm just adding pieces to the puzzle for no reason. So, all right, that's hooking up there. And this little guy runs right here. Okay. And this other one ran back over around behind the carburetor. And it hooked up to this choke, electronic choke. So, Matthew,
Jesse,
I think that is technically all we need to be hooked up to actually run the engine. Okay, so one thing we did not do yet was set the base ignition timing with the distributor. Now, just because I've worked on these before, I believe it's supposed to be somewhere around this area. What I would like to see is if we're at least getting some spark. So I'm gonna check that real quick with a test light. See if we are getting spark, and if we are, then maybe I can fidget with this, spray a little bit of carb cleaner, and see if we can at least get this thing to breathe for a second. So one moment, and let me test for spark. All right, so I'm gonna put that on the top of the generator clamp there, and there we go. We know we got a good ground because I'm at least getting a light. So let's go ahead and test. This spark should like shortly jump here. I'm not giving it that much, but go ahead and crank it. I just want to see if I get spark from the ignition coil to the test light. No, I'm not. Okay, so I checked and I do have power on the hot side of the coil with the key on. Key on, Matt?
Yeah.
Right now?
Yep.
Okay, there we go. So I do have power on the hot side of the coil, which is good. That's what I need. But I'm not getting spark, and that's probably because something's funky in the distributor and it is not pulling to the ground, because the way this is supposed to work is it's supposed to pull the power from the coil when the distributor grounds itself, and that is hooked up right now to the negative side of the coil. So I'm thinking we probably don't have something in here set perfectly right, and I don't know what it is or why. Why is it not set right? I just want to see though if this spins. So go ahead and try and crank the motor, Matt. Alright, there you go. That's part of our issue right there. We're not getting any movement at all in this thing. How did you install this? Are you sure you got it set down in the crank?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
Because the rotor wasn't spinning, and this, well, I mean, I took the rotor off, but this part of the distributor here that the rotor sets on is not spinning when you crank the motor over, and it should be.
Well, it doesn't go down any farther.
Well, maybe because you didn't set it on there right. So let's do that real fast. Let's, what is that, 10 mil? All right, pull that up. All right, now just to check this, go ahead and crank the motor again. And oh hey, we have another wire here that's supposed to go down to the oil pressure switch. I wonder which one that is. Or is that maybe the black one? No, that's not it. That's ignition power. That goes to the coil. Maybe it's this one here that I had run into the negative side of the ignition coil. I don't remember for sure. I assume that's where it went, but I could be wrong. I don't know. Were you getting any, is there a signal on that dash for oil pressure?
Yes.
There is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna leave that hanging for the moment. See what happens. I don't know for sure about that right now. Go ahead and crank the motor again though. I wanna see if this turns. All right. Yes, that's turning. So what I'm assuming is, yeah, you didn't get it set down in here all the way. See how that thing spins when I turn this? Mm-hmm. That wasn't turning. So when you set this down in there, you have to match it up, and there's a keyway on that driver. So
I feel like I felt that set down, but I could have been wrong.
When you put it in there, what you probably did was just you set it down and you thought it went in, but it didn't. You probably felt it slip over this little O-ring here.
Well, no, I spun it down into that reservoir, but I just may not have.
Well, you definitely didn't. May not have. You definitely didn't. Okay, cool. All right, guys, so we're back right now. We just left off. We were installing that distributor. It was like 10:30 at night, and I've been at work all day and not got home yet. And
he had to go eat.
Yeah, and I had to go eat. It was 10:30, and I hadn't eaten all day. I needed to do that. And you were doing something. So anyways, we just threw a new battery in it because we realized we were still borrowing the battery from the Mustang. So before we came over here right now, we just went and got another battery, and Matt just installed it. So go ahead and hop in, and let's go ahead and see if we get that cap spinning now. And then I'll throw that on and see if we're getting spark.
Sounds good.
And then by the way, I realized I made a mistake before. This wire went down to the oil pressure sender, which was right over here. And I mistakenly installed it on the hot side here of the coil. So that was my mistake. Yeah, I'm a dummy because I forgot. And I hope that nothing got damaged from that, but irregardless of all that, where'd the cap go?
Irregardless is not a word.
Irregardless? Well,
It's just regardless.
Regardless. I think you're right. I'm just messing up.
Irregardless would be not in regards regarding it.
Okay, well anyways, this was on the ground. That shouldn't be on the ground. I'm just sticking on there, no reason not to. Okay, hold on. Cool, and this thing's got a little spring in it. And that is now fully installed there. Go ahead and crank the motor over. I just want to make sure this thing's spinning. All right, cool. Now, let me go ahead and install the cap back on here in this little mess. All right, the cap's installed. Let me make sure the test light's still working. All right, cool. Now, let me check for spark from the ignition coil. Go ahead. Crank. Hey, we got spark. Cool. I don't know if you guys can see that, but that's a really good way to test if you have spark. If you have a test light, you should, if you have a good spark, you should be able to hold this about almost an inch away and see that spark jump across. If you are getting spark, but it's only if you're right there, real close, you probably have a faulty or failing ignition coil. Let me see if I can zoom in and show you. All right, Matt, go ahead. There we go. All right, cool. Let me put that on there, and let's just spray some carb cleaner and see if we can get the thing running for a second. All right, you sure you hooked the spark plugs all up to the right spot on the cap?
I sure did.
You checked before you put them on?
Yep, unless you sure did.
Good job, Matt. Unless no, it's on the same way it was.
All right.
All right, let me get some starter fluid. And then the one thing we did not do yet was set the timing, which you can do through, if you pull the cap back off and you turn the crank and set it to right, and use a test light and set it right to, I don't remember. That is an old school thing that you don't do on new cars, so I don't remember. But I know there's a way to do it, but I haven't looked it up. But I can do it, at least by ear, and get it running. And then we can get it close and get it right. And then after that, we just gotta throw the belt on, throw these little heater tube things in. I think we're good. All right, and I got starting fluid, and because all else we have here is brake cleaner. And you don't want to use brake cleaner running the motor, especially if you're inside in a shop like this, because if it does burn and you're running the car on it for a little bit, it makes, when you burn brake cleaner, it kind of makes something similar to mustard gas. So we don't need that in our life. So let's see what happens. Go ahead and just hold the throttle open. And then you can just let it shut, or maybe give it just a little bit of gas. And go ahead and crank and see what happens. All right. I think this has got to be facing more this way. Our timing's probably way off. All right, go ahead and crank it. Nothing? All right.
Hey, dude.
What?
Did we put oil in it?
Yes, we put oil in it.
Okay, just double checking.
Yes, so just so you guys know, we did put oil in it, but we forgot to film that part. Make sure before you're cranking and trying to start the engine, when you throw the new one in, that you put oil in first. We did. All right, now, maybe I do need to do the old school timing dealio, because last time I messed with one of these, I was able to get it in and just get it close and do it by ear.
I bet you were.
I was able to, but this one's...
I bet you were.
Mm-hmm. But this one's not wanting to crank, or not wanting to actually start. I know, but I do know that at least that I have spark. That is good. All right, now this is something I'm gonna have to refer to Google on. This car, for us at least, maybe there's some of you out there, you know all about these things, and that's great, but we don't. Because we've never really messed with these bugs before, and I do not have that much experience working on classic cars. So, this is something I gotta look up and read about real fast, and see if I can get this thing set properly. And hopefully we can get this thing running. Okay, so we need to set the points in here, ideally, except for the fact that I don't have a fueler gauge here, and neither does Matt. My fueler gauge is at work. So that's great. But I can at least get it close enough. I need to set the crank to top dead center, which there's 2 marks right here on the cam pulling. It's the one on the right on this one, I think. Should line right up with this little slot in the engine here. And then somebody marked this, and I believe that's supposed to be, the way they marked it is at 10 degrees. I don't quite want to go that far, so I will set it to somewhere around 6, 7 degrees, and we'll just start there. And then I need my test light. And I need to put the test light on the negative side of the ignition coil, and the ignition needs to be on. Is the ignition on, Matt?
No.
No?
Now it is.
Okay, hold on. So I'm gonna be waiting for power to show up here. So I got that clipped on, and then, well, hold on a second though. Oh, that's not facing the right way at all. This needs to be facing, as far as I know, cylinder number 1. And right now it's facing, what?
2.
No, because what goes after 1 on here?
2.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it 1, 2, 3, 4?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4. That doesn't make sense. It's got to swap engine sides.
You would think.
Okay, whatever. So I need to rotate this over one full turn, I believe, till it's facing towards 1 or close to it. That's past it now though. Okay, rotate it again. Come on, baby. What the heck? It's facing. See, it's facing
2.
2 when I needed it at 1. Wait, because when this spins, which way is the engine spin on this thing? I forget. Is it going this way or this way?
It's going
Clockwise or counterclockwise?
clockwise.
I think so. So
Think so.
So it spins that way.
Yep.
Okay. Then what I want, I believe, is to go back, and that's gonna fire. If I set this to like 6, 7 degrees, and then it's spinning this way, so this one's rotating also clockwise, so it's gonna fire right there. So I think that's probably a good spot to try. Let me just tighten this down a little bit so it doesn't rotate too much on its own. Okay, that seems to be good. Let's go ahead and put the cap on. You can hear it. And then this thing going on. Cylinder number 1 is which one? Not that one. Cylinder number 1 is
That one.
Cylinder number 1 is this one. So that's the one facing this way.
Mm-hmm.
Or wait a minute. Is that right? Cylinder number 1's up here. So I'm gonna have to spin them around counterclockwise. So maybe you didn't have the plugs on right because you didn't know because
The plugs
you didn't.
were on right. It's just the timing.
Well,
you had it set
no,
all the way over
you
here.
had them over one just because you didn't know that the distributor was moving, or you didn't know where the distributor was going to be. So you just set it on there and looked at a picture. Is that what you did?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Well, I
it
followed
twists.
the instruction.
Oh yeah. Okay, so I think that might have been our issue. We were off
By
one on there, and you know, like I said, I was being lazy and I didn't try and set that ahead of time. I should have just looked it up and done it. So that's what you get for being lazy. Because I would have found that if I had done that ahead of time. You know, I would have found that, and we wouldn't have been messing around, and I wouldn't have had to, you know, be wondering why isn't it starting? Why is it backfiring in my face? All right, hop in. Let's try to start it again.
All right.
All right, so let's go ahead and try and start it. When Matt put it in, he didn't have a reference point, so he probably was a quarter turn off when he installed all those wires, but I believe we're good now, hopefully. So go ahead and crank it, Matt. Hey, wanting to start. Come on, girl, let's go. We don't want to burn this little baby starter up by trying to crank it too long. But it is wanting to start now, so that was probably our issue, because I can hear it like lightly trying to fire. let's try and start it again, see what happens. There we go. Hey! All right, so it's just not getting enough fuel. Are we getting any fuel up here yet? No. Probably needs gas in the tank for one thing.
Well, it's on R.
What's R?
I don't know. It's German. It probably stands for
Reserve.
Reserve.
Which means empty.
Which means empty. Yeah.
Try again. I want to hear it run.
I don't want to flood it.
Hey! All right. She runs for a second. All right, guys. So that is it for tonight. I gotta go home, sadly, but we need to get some gasoline. Or you're gonna get some gasoline.
I'm gonna get some gasoline.
Tighten this up.
The heater hose is on. The little fascia on. The boot. Leave the air cleaner off for now. The air filter.
So we get the gasoline and make sure that this thing runs.
Yes.
Cool. And what else? I guess that's it.
That's it.
Pretty much.
For a test drive.
And take it for a test drive. But yeah, for tonight at least, that is it. We're done. But thank you guys for watching in this series so far. I would like to just say we're doing our best, at least with the time we have, but I'm really busy. It would be awesome if I had all the time in the world to research everything before we even started working, but we don't.
Nobody's got time for that.
We're adults, trying to be adults. I don't like it.
Sure.
Don't grow up if you can help it.
Legally, I'm an adult.
Yeah, but anyway, so we did our best with this. We've been having fun with it. It's been a learning experience for sure.
For sure.
Yes, but I think we're doing decently because at least it runs now.
Yes, that's a good
Just
indicator.
don't be lazy like I was being with the distributor there, because you know it was 25% off. It was a quarter turn off, and we would have known that if I had not been lazy and if I had not skipped that step of setting that ahead of time.
Because probably know a little more if this car wasn't made 20 years before we were born. So
I think it was like 40 years before we were born, dude.
73.
Well, this one, but I mean this design, the design and all this, way before that, I think. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, thank you for watching, guys, and check out our Instagram, check out our Facebook, and check out our website. If you guys want to start working on cars yourself, you want to take on new projects or make repairs on your own stuff, we have a tools section now, and we have a lot of recommendations on there for different useful tools, whether it just be wrench sets and stuff like that, and then also some diagnostic tools to help you figure out what the problems are. And I think we're going to do a little bit more videos on that kind of stuff too now, on diagnosing things. That is something that I'm doing my best to get better at, versus just, you know, trying to roughly figure out what part it is and throw a new one at it. That's not the right way to do things, so anyway.
Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Don't forget, keep wrenching.